If you told me that I would end up my career as a general officer, I'd say no way. You could feel the tensions across the globe. I knew that we were going to deploy at some point.
How do you think about the military financial ecosystem from a big picture perspective?
We just don't associate our positions and what we make as wealth building.
What is a singular piece of advice you'd give to women specifically considering a military career?
I know when I first came in the Army, I was always trying to fit in and that kind of thing. You actually fit in when you are you're a contributing member of the team.
What do you think helped propel your rise through the ranks of the Army? For too long, those that have worn the cloth of the country, that have fought and sacrificed for our nation, have been left out of the greatest financial engine the world has ever seen. My service paved the way for my success, and that's true for so many veterapreneurs. In fact, some of the greatest companies were created by veterans. I'm your host, Kaj Larson, and in each episode, we'll bring you the stories and the wisdom of those who have gone from boots on the ground to successful careers, from military to wealth, and how they've done it, so you can apply those insights to your own mission and life. Welcome to Tactical Wealth, from military to money. General Richardson, before we get tactical, if you had to sum up your journey from a young Army aviator to a four-star general in a sentence, what would it be?
So pretty amazing that just the things that I've been able to do in the military that I never would have ever thought possible. And if you told me that I would end up my career as a general officer, I'd say no way.
Yeah. I tell myself the same thing, and I was right. But you achieved this extraordinary moment. Is there a mission or a leadership moment? Oh, I know your career is extraordinary and long, but is there one moment that stands out for you?
There is, and it was when I was a battalion commander, and I was at the 101st Airborne Division, and I'd just gotten in as a battalion commander. We were going to be on the, you could feel the tensions across the globe. I knew that we were going to deploy at some point in time, probably to Iraq, and we actually did in March of that next year. I went into command in the summer previous to that, and but we were going to be in our tasking cycle the whole time up until deployment. And you don't know when you're going to deploy, but I knew that we were. I mean, you could just feel it. The spidey senses were pretty strong, and it was like, okay, how I'm a new battalion commander. I've got 30 UH-60 Blackhawks. I'm one of the 3 assault battalions in the 101st Airborne Division. This is how the infantry in that division gets around. We're the transportation for them. And so how are we going to train for combat and make sure that this unit, because as a commander, I feel like I'm the coach, right? And you're either going to win or you're going to lose. And I'm not about losing. And so, how do I assess where the unit is, train them, and make sure that everybody we deploy with, we redeploy with, and we come back with everybody, right? And so with that as the primary goal, it was that, training up for that deployment. And then we didn't know how long we were going to be there, right? Like we thought we might be there a couple months when we first left. And I would say that that's probably the worst, is when you don't know how long something's going to be. It's kind of like when your commander takes you out on a run and you're like, you don't know how far you're going to run, so it seems like it's twice as long. And we ended up being there a year. But it was that training, that all that hard work that we put in on the front end that led to successful missions on the back end for everybody and for that division. So that was a defining moment, how important a commander, a leader, and your leaders at echelon are in the military.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. I think if there's one thing I could convey, the credit always goes to the boots on the ground, but that doesn't mean that the crucible of leadership is not heavy, because it is. Yeah. All right. So welcome back to another episode of Tactical Wealth. Today, I'm incredibly honored to welcome General Laura J. Richardson. She's a trailblazing Army aviator, a former 4-star general, and the first woman to command both U.S. Army North and U.S. Southern Command. Her leadership has shaped national security, global cooperation, and gender equality in the military. Her story isn't just about breaking barriers. It's about setting new standards. General Richardson, welcome to Tactical Wealth. It's a privilege to have you on the show.
I'm honored to be here.
It's wonderful. Well, before we get started today, I want to understand a little bit about how you came to be in the military. Can you tell us your background and why you decided to serve?
Well, my folks were very instrumental in me joining, actually, ROTC in college. We didn't have high school ROTC in my state, but I highly recommend it. What a fantastic program. But my folks had me start ROTC in college when I was a freshman, and I didn't know what to think of it after I went to the first class and lab, but then it just kind of rubbed off on me. I ended up kind of liking it, and I actually started off in Air Force ROTC the first year, and I didn't quite fit in, but I thought that, I kind of like this. And so I went to the other services and tried out just went to visit them, and Army seemed to be a good fit. And so I signed on with Army and graduated, commissioned into the Army, and went right to flight school after that.
And did you know you wanted to fly when you entered the service?
So I was working on my private pilot's license before, while I was in high school and college. And so that seemed to be a logical flow, right, to go into the service and fly after that. So that's really what I wanted to do. Or I was taking pre-med in college for all my courses and things like that. So I'd have something else to do, if it was one or the other. I'd have at least another option if one didn't pan out. And so, but it was pretty amazing to see all of the different things that you could do in the military, right? And so my message to young people all the time is there are only over 350 jobs within the military. And I will tell you that I could not have picked a more fantastic career than what I had. And most of the times, most of them, not all of them, but no career is ever, 100%. But most of the time, you'd have to pinch me like, I can't believe I'm here doing this because it was so cool. And I don't think in any other job or profession I could have done the things that I've been able to do in the military.
And during the early part of your career, since, we're focused on wealth building here, do you remember what your personal relationship was to finances related to the military? Was it something you thought about a lot?
Not really, not at all. It was just, go in and, get through flight school, be a pilot, be a good leader. It wasn't thinking about how much you made or how much you're going to save or even investing. That wasn't even something that I considered when I was, going into the military as a second lieutenant.
Yeah. Somehow that makes me feel better and worse simultaneously. Better because even if somebody like you, like me, was not thinking about financial literacy at the time, it makes me feel personally a little better, but also sad because I think it really epitomizes, if someone is as driven and smart as accomplished as you wasn't focused, imagine the rest of the force, a bunch of knuckle draggers like myself. Like we certainly were not focused on financial literacy, and it's true, it's a hole.
Yeah, I just think if I had started early and started when, before signed up, before I, when I signed up to go into the military, that I also signed up for like the thrift savings program and, got briefed on all those things and was aware, I'd be much better off now, I think, now that I'm retired. Because that wealth, I think just the word wealth, we don't associate military and wealth in the same sentence or in we just don't associate, our positions and what we make as wealth building. But, my husband has this saying that you always got to pay yourself first. He's always said that. And there's so much truth to that. You know, you live paycheck to paycheck generally in the military, and we did. And but he always said we're going to pay ourselves first. And whether that was $50 or $100 that we saved and then invested, that was the key, because that adds up big time.
That's pretty brilliant. And I mean, if there's one thing, God, I hope I could impart to everybody who's serving or just recently finished serving, just a little nudge. I love pay yourself first. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. So maybe one thing, you know, before we go too deep into, I definitely want your perspective from a command perspective of how finance trickles out through the military ecosystem. But before, I guess I'd just love to get a sense. I know you're an extraordinarily humble person, but what do you think helped propel your rise through the ranks of the Army? How did you reach this position ultimately? What were the internal characteristics that you think really helped get you there?
I think the one big thing about the military is about the team. It's not about you as an individual. And I think coming up through sports, that, you know, I was a competitive swimmer coming up. I was on the swim team, and it was all about the team and how well the team did and those kinds of things. And so the military is even that much bigger of a team, and it was something bigger than yourself, which, you know, you give 150% when it's not about you. It's amazing what, you know, the team can do when highly trained, and, you know, you just know everybody really, really well on your team. And so I think that that was extremely attractive in the military, and just I don't know, it just took off from there. It was something that I could relate to.
There's a lot of inflection points in people's military careers. You sort of intimated that, like, one of the peaks or one of the zeniths of your career was when you're a battalion commander, but there's many points at the 10-year mark, you know, where you've finished your service requirement, right? Or after you've sort of completed your operational time in the service and you're moving into upper management, that people leave. Why did you stay during those moments?
Well, I think I don't know. I mean, my husband and my husband served 40 years in the Army, also an Army aviator, and the Army was really good to us and our family, right? And it was, there were many programs that were very, very key that were around 40 years ago that allowed both of us to serve, both of us to be successful, and for us to have a family, and then be able to stay together. I mean, really, 40 years ago, I was pretty forward thinking, I think, because, you know, I think young people struggle with that today. It's the same struggles, but those same programs are there to facilitate that. And I think that's one of the things, a highlight of our career is that we were examples as dual military, successful dual military. Because you wouldn't believe how many people would tell us, you know, one of you has got to get out at some point, right? You both can't make it. You might as well face it, right? And we were both successful with full careers in the military and have a family.
Right. And there's a lot of challenges incumbent with
That's
that,
right?
Moving,
right.
I think you told me you were stationed at 17 different bases or something?
Right. We moved a lot, yeah. 17 different permanent changes of station, PCSs. So, yeah, absolutely. And our daughter endured 13 of those. So,
wow.
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
Wow.
Wasn't easy, a lot of planning, but it's not impossible, you know?
And in hindsight, were there, well, I'll ask you a funny question since you brought up your husband, like 4 stars, 3 stars, 7-star combined family. There's not many of those, right?
Right.
Okay, but you still outrank him, right?
I always did.
Always did. Always. No, you must have been peers at some point in flight school.
No, he was 3 or 4 years ahead of me.
Well, sounds like you were definitely doing the Army right.
Yeah.
Sounds. You've championed a lot of the women, peace, and security initiatives. Can you talk about why you think integration in the military is so important?
Well, so we talk about how your financial portfolio needs to be diversified, right, to be stronger and weather the storm and the ups and downs of the market and things like that. No different. How can you ignore 50% of your talent pool? Right? It increases readiness. And, I'll just go back to my serving in the military. You can wake up every day and impact national security, right, by being in the military. But the diversification, I think I think women think a little bit differently. I think they're team builders, and they try to figure out solutions to solve issues without fighting, right? And quite honestly, I think it's good to have different perspectives of how people think and ideas, because I know just as I was coming up through the ranks, as you're getting ready to make decisions, you don't want to surround yourself with people that think like you. You want to have different ways of different perspectives and be able to take in as much information as you possibly can have before you make a really important decision. In the military, you make decisions and people's lives depend on it. And so you want the best information from all different thoughts to try to make that one final best decision before you move out.
Yeah, I'm really proud to hear you say this. I compose all of my teams not by some like notion of identity, but by diversity of thinking, because I think there's this famous Emerson quote, Ralph Waldo Emerson quote about friendship: better to be a nettle in my side than my echo, meaning that sometimes friends or peers or colleagues challenge each other. And especially in the military, we have learned lessons in blood that you need to red team things. You need to have contradicting opinions, and then you need to ultimately reconcile those differences and get on mission. And that's important. But I think that diversity, and by diversity I mean diversity of perspectives, of thinking, of ideas, is one of the consummate strengths of our military, actually.
I think so too.
Yeah, amazing. So I want to talk about finances a little bit. From your perspective, you at times have led thousands and thousands of service members, or you have been in command in thousands of service members. How do you think about the military financial ecosystem from a big picture perspective?
I would say that we got a lot of work to do. We need to build the ecosystem, quite honestly, right? And I think that that's what is so, that's why I'm so passionate about Siebert Valor and the initiative that, you're spearheading, Kaj, because, it's something that is for the military, for retirees, for veterans, for family members, right? First responders, police, firefighters. It's for all the people that are out there making things happen and are so busy all the time, that it is tailored to us, right? And to our kind of like culture. And again, I go back to, you would never put wealth in the same sentence with military, but we have to, because there are so many great programs that the military has, but you need that financial education and literacy and platforms like what Siebert offers. It's pretty amazing, and that it's tailored to us. You couldn't ask for any better.
Were there other course corrections over the cycle of your career that could be comps for us about how we could shift and change military culture around finances? Other big things you had to change?
I think that we, as a society, I won't even tackle the military. I'll just take as a society, we don't, the education and finances, it's not there. It's not there for, and it needs to be there in our society. And actually, we should be going back into middle schools and high schools, and that should be part of our curriculum and education. But certainly also in the military to take it up into another level, right? And just the education that you need. So do I, for an individual retirement, an IRA, do I do a traditional or do I do a Roth? When do I do this or that, right? And just those basic things.
And for the military, there's plenty of headwinds. We've talked about some of them, constant changes of station, the stress and duress of military life. But there are some institutional advantages we have because we have some sort of closed ecosystem components. We have schools on bases, right? Are those levers that the military, that DoD can pull in order to close this gap a little?
I think so. I think so. I think there are a lot of things that we have, as I like to say, always look in your backyard first before you ask for other things, just to see if you already have the tools and you're just not using them. I think there are a lot of things that we could, just kind of revamp or, rejuvenate and utilize.
So you have now retired. You don't feel retired by any means. So is this just, is it life on the fishing boat with your husband now, or
life on the golf course?
On the golf course, is that what it is?
Not
Do you
yet.
guys both golf?
We both golf. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. We're on a golf course. We've been waiting. We've had land for like 30 years, and we've been waiting to build a house and live on, and now we do. But we still have some debt that we want to pay off. So we still have, so we're still in a different kind of workforce, trying to become debt free, and that's our goal before we retire. Right.
So having a sort of second career post-military career.
Right, for a short period of time. And now, had we saved earlier in our careers, we might not have to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not just saved, I shouldn't say just saved, because your savings account isn't going to give you the interest rate that you need to invest your money. And that's why the Siebert Valor program, tactical wealth. I mean, this is huge. This is huge for our service members. This program tailored to us, right? For people that don't have a lot of time to figure things out.
I hope so. Speaking of not a lot of time, we have a section that we like to do. We call rapid fire. So this is this is the machine gun, the M60 of questions. So I'll shoot a couple your direction. Best investment you ever made?
The thrift savings program that the U.S. government offers.
Excellent. Dumbest financial mistake you've made?
Investing in a company, in a fund, and this is what early on that didn't make any money and ended up going out of business, and so that made us have a little, we were scared to invest.
Right. At the same time, we learned from our losses, right? I bet you sharpened the knife on investing after
big
that.
Time.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
Reined it in. Military habit you'll never drop?
Working out.
Same. A book that changed your mindset or that you just think is a must read for everyone?
I like, there are a lot of books out there, but I liked especially Band of Brothers.
Yeah. Extraordinary. And morning routine?
Morning routine, Army, coffee, can't give it up.
I love it. Great. So in closing, what is a singular piece of advice you'd give to women specifically considering a military career?
So here's what I would say, and not just for women. I would, for men and women. And I would say, as you start out as young people in the military, put your head down, be as competent and as you can be. Learn your job, your profession. I know when I first came in the Army, I was always trying to fit in and that kind of thing. You actually fit in when you are you're a contributing member of the team, right? And that means whatever the mission is of the unit that you're in, that you've put 150% into learning that mission and being good at what you do. When you're new to something, do a lot of listening, not a lot of talking. And become, again, as a contributor as quickly as possible. And then that's exactly when you fit in because of your professionalism and your competence. So, and again, you're part of a team. It's not about you.
And beyond your private sector work, what's important to you now that you've transitioned out?
I think just trying to give back. There's some things that I was working in U.S. Southern Command when I was the commander there. for the region that I was responsible for, working with those militaries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And then something just like, like this, with the finances for military and first responders, but just giving back and how I just think that, I testified when I was in the seat as a combatant commander in terms of, I just think that more investment, quality U.S. investment, Team USA investment into Latin America and the Caribbean is what's needed in our own hemisphere with which we live, the Western Hemisphere. And so just trying to help with some of those things, those initiatives that I was working in uniform, continue that and see some things through.
Yeah, amazing. What did you say earlier? Sometimes you look in your own backyard first.
Right.
It applies to macro global foreign policy as well.
That's right.
Yeah, amazing. Well, General Richardson, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Your journey, it's not just about breaking ceilings, it's about building ladders for other, and I truly appreciate that. Your legacy reminds us that with discipline, vision, and resilience, no space is off limits to anyone. For everyone listening, please take this to heart. Leadership is about persistence, it's about integrity, and it's about using your platform to elevate others. Until next time, stay tactical and stay driven. Hey, thanks again for locking in with us today. I hope this episode stimulated the old brain housing unit. Step one to becoming richer is becoming smarter, and I hope some of the lessons and ideas from today have sharpened your knife. As always, I hope you're taking notes, but more importantly, that you're taking action. Thanks again to Siebert.Valor and Siebert Financial for the support. And remember, stay tactical, stay driven, and don't forget to bang that subscribe button.
Tactical Wealth is a Gebbia media production, brought to you by Siebert.Valor, a military-focused initiative from Siebert Financial. The Tactical Wealth podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Siebert Financial. This podcast does not constitute investment advice, an offer to sell, or a solicitation to buy any securities. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Listeners should consult a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions.